Tonight we have representatives from 3 of the professional firms that we've hired to help us with our bond issue. Our owner's rep, who happens to be Plant Moran Cressa, we have Ahmed Beasley and Greg Van Kirk. They're here with us. Our architect, Partners in Architecture, is represented by Darren McKenna, and our construction manager, which is George Auk Company, is being represented by Scott Oswald. So I am going to turn it over to Ahmed at this point. He's going to walk us through what's happened since really the bond issue was passed back in May, bringing us all the way up to the present time, and then what we can expect over the next 6 to 9 months, taking us through this next summer. So with that, you have the printout of the PowerPoint in front of you, but Ahmed is going to walk you through that as well. So.
Good
evening. How are you?
Madam President, Board Trustees, Administration. Thank you for having us today. We're definitely glad to be before you and present to you what we've been doing since we last presented to you back in June. I do promise to update you on what we've been doing, but I do not promise to be as entertaining as Mr. Fuller. But so we are here to update you on what we've been doing since we last met and presented before you back in June, and I'll go over just an overview or review of what the bond, some of the specifics of what was in the bond, talk about the specifics in the program delivery, project delivery. I'll talk about the team assembly, that process, how we went through that. Mr. McKenna will give you an update on where we are in the design phase, and then we'll go through the technology update as well. We'll also talk about Mr. Oswald will come up and give us an update on where we are with some target dates, present some of that information to you, and then we'll talk about the next steps as we move forward in the program. Just a bit of an overview or review for some. Bonds were sold back in May, and that gave us a $35 million program. That is the budget, and the scope of the work comes from the bond application, which was generated from the facility assessment that we performed and conducted prior to. So that sort of sets the template of the scope of work and what's contained within that bond, what activities we're going to do. We broke them up into, they were broken up into different categories, with $25 million of work being done for critical needs, approximately $5 million in property enhancements. Technology has a budget of $4 million, and then equipment replacement, all of which are desperately needed, as you're probably aware of. That is the essence of the scope, the template of what the bond program consists of. And then the schedule, because they're taxable bonds, and work has to be completed in a certain amount of time, and that's 36 months from May of 2016 when the bond was sold, or when the bond passed, I should say, and then we'll conduct the project and complete the work over the course of time, and we plan to finish in 2019, the fall of 2019. Ms. April, correct me if I'm wrong, but the bonds have been sold. Proceeds are in the bank. That was done back in July, and if not mistaken, you got a very favorable rate on those as well.
We did, very, very good.
Yes.
Yep. Less than 3% was the life of the bond.
Exactly. That is, comparatively speaking, that is a very good rate that you got. So that is just the gist of what the overall program consists of, some of the specifics. I do want to remind you too, though, that our initial assessment, facility assessment, identified $50 million worth of needs that needed to be addressed. That was scaled back considerably, and I share that to say that not everything that was identified is going to get done. We're going to do the best to stretch those dollars, but there are still going to be some needs that are going to be left undone, left unaddressed once we're complete. So God bless you. Thank you. So that is the statistics of what the program consists of. There we go. That's the statistics of the bond program, and some of the logistics is how we are going to perform the projects or execute the projects within the course of the program. We as the program managers recommended to you a specific program approach, and based on the size and the nature of the program, it was decided that we would engage a single architectural firm, a single construction manager as the constructor, a single technology designer, and then we would engage multiple what we call design prime vendors who would handle the parking lots, the site work, and the roofing. Each and every one of those particular disciplines, we issued, since we were last before you, we issued RFPs. Those were put together by our office. Within those RFPs, they contain minimum qualifications so that we would make sure we were attracting those qualified firms who would be able to handle this program and the nature of this program and the work consisting within it. Those RFPs were also, just so you're aware, that each one of those RFPs were advertised locally in local publication, and they were posted on the website as well, so that all who met those qualifications would receive that information and had an opportunity to bid on these or submit a proposal for each one of these disciplines. And there's just the organizational chart as we presented it before, to just show how we would approach it from from an organizational standpoint. Our role would be as the owner's rep, and then we would also have Citizens Committee, which comprised of 3 members of the community who would have some commentary and some feedback on what program or projects would be issued within this program. A part of that RFP process, which is a very extensive process, is that we recommended and you also approved of us going forward with using a criteria-based selection process. That process contains criteria that's relevant to each one of those disciplines as it's listed there: the architect, the construction manager, technology designer, roofing consultant, and civil engineer. There's criteria for each and every one of those particular disciplines. Though that criteria is weighted, that information was passed to the administration, and we discussed it, and those things were approved upon, and that was issued and that was created prior to issuance of the RFPs. So we would make everything fair, everything would be on the up and up. Those things were created before we issued the RFPs. That criteria-based selection process allows us to aggregate the information that's submitted in each proposal, take the data that's within there, assign a particular score to it, and of the 3 highest firms, the firms that scored the highest based on the criteria that was for each of the disciplines, they would be the ones. The 3 firms that scored the highest would be the firms that be invited for an interview. The interview was conducted, and it had a score as well, but we also had, in the interview process, there was a selection panel. We also invited members of the board. You were all welcome. A few of you had opportunity to see that process, but you were also able to engage and ask questions and participate as well. But the selection team consisted of staff, administration, and they were the ones who, I didn't have a vote, they were the ones who selected, and they made a score. I took that score, placed it in the rubric, and it spit out the recommendation. Worked just like it should. So with that completed our process of selecting the team. And with that being said, the team that was selected for each of the categories, as you heard, Partners in Architecture was selected as the architectural firm. George W. Alt Company was selected as the construction manager. The technology designer was Barb Mall Company. Civil engineer was SME, also known as Soil and Material Engineers. The roofing consultant, actually, Partners in Architecture ended up winning that as well. The only other team member that we need to bring on board is the commissioning agent. That is not as important as these upfront ones, but we're working on that and we'll get that out the first of the year. But these particular disciplines and these team members, we need it right away to get things moving as far as planning, designing, and getting the program moving. So that is the team assembly, and I'll bring up Darren McKenna to explain to you the design update, give you an idea of how that process works and where we are within the context of that process.
You didn't just sabotage it, did you? Okay. That's good. I'll do that on my own problem. Well, thank you for your selection. My name is Darren McKenna. I'm with Partners in Architecture. I'm the project manager as well as a licensed architect. We've been working closely with Ahmed and his team as well as AUK once they were a part of the team, and moving through many meetings and getting that process going to make sure we can get some work done for the upcoming summer. The first slide, and I'll back up to the process once we get through this, but the first slide, we went through the final detailed program and are currently in schematic design phase. A schematic design is after we've established a rough overall scope, we move forward with the preliminary planning process to get into enough detail so that Scott and his team, who was absolutely involved in the schematic design process, can take that, look at the logistics of it, schedule, and get us some numbers as far as what we're looking at for costs to do the work in the next summer. The next phase is which will come up very quickly for this first group of work for the summer is the design development phase. We get into more detail. We get more support and more feedback from the administration as well as the principals and staff, so that we can quickly move into the construction document phase. Construction documents are essentially what go out on the street for a publicly bid round of work. Okay, it's critical, and Scott's going to talk more about schedule, but we're moving quickly to be able to get those documents complete and get that out on the street by February so that we can get good competitive numbers and get contractors locked in before they get too busy. And so the scope of work, which we'll get into in some more detail, we'd love it to be larger and take on more. There's just not enough time to get it, to do all the work we'd love to do this first summer. Plus, what we don't want to do is get too far ahead of ourselves such that we rushed into a decision that we're going to have to want to back away from. For example, at the high school, we're talking about dressing up the facade along Beach Daly, new entryway, replacing the cladding, possibly some additional classrooms. And the last thing we want to do is shoehorn us into an approach before we have everybody's input that allows us to make the right decision going forward, because it's going to be there for a long time. I'm going to jump into the process real quick. We've had lots of meetings. We've met with all the principals. They've been very helpful. They were all very prepared, including Mr. Folletti. We've had several meetings at the high school level with theater, as well as the middle school level with theater, music, food service. Our goal was to see the overall program, okay? We don't want to make a decision on windows until we understand the greatest need, and so there was numerous meetings to be able to establish, okay, what is it we have to get done? Yes, Kinloch's roof, we understand. That's got to get done as soon as possible. Classrooms, overcapacity at several of the buildings, again, very important. A little late to get started now, but that's the biggest focus for next year. And we're going to continue to have those meetings. We're going to get the cost estimates together. We're going to refine the designs. And we've got several designs that, during schematic, that we've got to run by the principals again and the administration to make sure everybody's on board before we get too far ahead. So here's an outline. I won't get into a lot of detail. You probably have some understanding of what we're talking about moving forward with. but this is just a school-by-school list of the items we're going to tackle for the summer, propose to tackle for the summer. You know, we haven't finalized it by any means, but we've gotten together, all bought in on, okay, let's get this done, let's hit all the schools, let's make progress, and make sure we pick up the most important items first. Those really the critical infrastructure items that you saw on Ahmed's slide. So at the high school, exterior window and door replacements, it's a partial replacement. We're going to likely hold off on Beach Daily because there's some improvements there to dress up the facade of Beach Daily, right? So we don't want to replace all those windows and then have to come back and do it again. We're going to replace window treatments, obviously, where we're replacing windows, and then where we're touching exterior doors that we want to have card access, the badges, we're going to incorporate that, and that's Barton Metal Technology handling that, but we're coordinating that effort with them. We're going to do all the pool work. You know, you drain the pool, you want to get up there, do all the work you can, which includes sealing, possibly lighting, the restrooms, showers, repairing the tile, and the biggest ticket part of that is the mechanical unit replacement. The current one doesn't have humidity control. I'm sure you're well aware of that. We'll upgrade that and make sure that that's an important thing that happens. Electrical service, really when we replace that unit, we need to get more power to the building in general. We're going to make sure we size the new electrical service to accommodate that mechanical replacement as well as any other future additions that, you know, in the fairly near future, we want to make sure we have enough power for the building through the bond plus a little bit more. Clock system, not real exciting, but it's going to be great once all the clocks are replaced, so it's this exact same time in every room. We're proposing a wireless system that's tied to a GPS satellite such that it's always the correct time. And then roofing. At the high school, it's a limited area. Again, because where we're touching the roof, there is some effect to that cladding that everybody loves on the high school, that beautiful silver cladding. We're going to hit the areas that are the worst. It's probably about 50% of the roof areas that haven't been done recently, and make sure we get that done for the summer. Next slide, please. Riverside Middle School, again, nothing too exciting, really bad roof in most of the areas. I think it's about 75% of the areas that haven't been touched in a long time. We're going to get that done. The district had the foresight several years ago to have a study done of all the roof areas. That was very helpful. It allowed us to jump in, and we're very close to being complete with the construction document phase for the roofing. Kinloch Elementary, our Andy Sawinski, he's our architect who's handling the roofing. He went on Riverside first and thought that was bad, and then he went to Kinloch. He's like, oh my gosh. So there's some work there. That's a high priority. And since we're doing the roofing there, we're going to replace, the proposed is to replace the siding. So again, there's this similar siding that you have on the high school is also at Kinloch. Hillcrest Elementary, the biggest focus there is mechanical work that was essentially selected because there's a boiler is down and needs to get replaced, and at the same time we're going to replace all the mechanical work in there, and that's really our first big foray into getting new units in the classrooms, gym, and everywhere else it's needed, including the boilers. All the elementary schools, including Hillcrest, we're going to create a secure entry vestibule. I've got a little handout. It was kind of hot off the presses today that gives you an idea of what that means, how you would access each of the schools. The elementary schools are going to get new secure entry vestibules with card access, ADA push pads to operate the doors automatically. And so that's going to happen at Hillcrest as well. At Highview, the big thing there, in addition to the secure entry vestibule, is replacing all of the windows and doors on the exterior. So again, single pane windows, very inefficient. We're going to get new windows in there, and we're well on our way to getting that worked out. Well, I'll hand it out in a minute. I'm going to go over it real quick. It's somewhat difficult to see from so far away, but this is Hillcrest. Their Highview and Kinloch is similar as far as what we're attempting to do. At Hillcrest, there's currently, once you enter through that first set of doors, you go to the intercom, you get buzzed in, you go through the first set of doors, and you have then access to the school. Obviously, there's somebody at the front desk who's watching very carefully, but it's nice to have, once you enter that set, you've got to go into the administrative office, see somebody, get checked in, and then get buzzed into the balance of the school.
Yes.
It is.
I'm not.
Let me pass out the floor plan, it'll be easier to see.
Okay, yeah, because I'm not seeing.
I'm not seeing
The
it either.
brown is the lobby.
Right.
The brown is.
Okay, I'll orient you. So the bottom middle is the main entry doors.
No. And
I'm gonna steal Ahmed's pointer here. Okay, can you see that green laser up there?
yeah, I want to see that.
Thank you.
I'll just wait.
Thank you. Okay, Donna. Main office, there's no storage here. Oh, this is a new design?
I don't know. Where's this? Where's the back hallway? Where's the back hallway?
Yep.
This is right here.
So you see the red
I don't see this. right
square,
here, right here.
essentially? That's the current lobby. You walk in
This
there,
is right.
that's the lobby, and then if you were to leave the lobby and access the blue areas, that's the main corridors for the building.
No, all right, excuse me.
Yeah.
There's two corridors.
This is not, is this the whole?
Yeah, so the principal's office right up here.
Yes.
This is the
Yeah.
main administrative area.
Gotcha.
And there's, these doors here,
Yes.
those are new.
Okay.
Okay,
this is
those
new
are,
stuff.
we're proposing
Okay.
those as
Oh, so
new.
you don't have the second, the second hallway?
We just,
on here.
we just cropped it to that just main entry area.
Gotcha. I'm
That's
looking
where
at-
we were all
that's-
confused.
Okay,
Yep, sorry.
okay. No, that's fine. I just,
We were
I wasn't,
visualizing the whole
yeah, I
picture.
was trying to picture the whole,
Sure.
Okay,
So
now
it's,
we're not
it's a
on
new set of doors
okay.
that will have a card access system on it. So I won't get into too much detail, but the goal is you go to the intercom. If you don't have card access, if you're administrator, principal, teacher, you're going to have a badge. It'll allow you to swipe and get in automatically through those front doors. If not, you're going to use the intercom as they currently do, get buzzed in, but you will then not be able to access that second set of doors if you're a
That's good.
visitor. If you have a badge, you're able to go up there, swipe again, and you can get access to the corridors and the balance of the building. Okay? If you're a visitor, you've got to make a hard right into the administration area, check in, sign in, get your sticker, and then they can buzz you in from the desk into that next set of doors to allow you access to the school.
Got it.
So it's really
I like
a
it.
lockdown. What's great about this school is you've got great visuals here. You're going to see somebody coming in and make sure that they check in anyway, but in case they don't want to, they're stopped at that next set of doors. That next set of doors also would have an ADA push pad to open
Nice.
up so that somebody in a wheelchair, it's easier to get access to the balance of the building. So this is similar to what Kinloch and Highview is also going to get. They're obviously different. Kinloch's actually already got two sets of doors. That's more of an airlock, but you still have access to the building before you can get buzzed in
Right.
on that second set. So this is one example. We'll show you the rest of them as we get further along, but Kinloch's going to be the same as well as Highview. Highview's going to get a little bit more work. We need to add a door. At Highview, once you come in, you've actually got to go into the corridor, come back around into the main office. We're going to add a door so that you go right in. So we're going to have to do some work inside the main office to make that happen, but it's not too horribly complicated.
I think this is all very exciting.
It certainly is. I'll be around for questions, but Ahmed's going to continue on with the technology portion of the update.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. by all means, if you have any questions or comments, you're free to
Oh, we're not shy.
jump in. I'm sure you're not shy. That's why I forgot to mention that, but I thought I'd mention it. But we will have time at the end if you got any questions or comments that
Thank
you'd
you.
like to make, and we'll address those as well. So Darren gave you the design update, the construction portion of it, and a part of the bond also is the technology upgrade. Technology, Barton Mallow Company has been brought aboard, and they are meeting regularly with Ms. Walega and her staff as well. They did have she had a list of technology needs that needed to be addressed, and they're going through the meetings trying to determine what's the best options, giving them some options on how to address those particular needs. So one thing they've started doing is that, as I believe, there is a smart monitor in the board office. That's a demo that's set up. They got that going. And they're going to be meeting with principals as well to see what's the best way to implement technology within instruction as well. We've had a couple of meetings with administration as well to get curriculum involved so that we're meeting those needs and addressing those needs appropriately. So what they've been doing is preparing for that, and they've also been working with us as on the construction side to address the card access at each of the buildings. For this summer's work, particularly at the elementaries, is what's going to be the first phase. Part of that is determining what the district's philosophy will be. So they'll be meeting with principals, meeting with the administration, getting feedback, coming back with options and saying, this is how we can address based on the philosophy that you have in place for how we get into buildings, access buildings, how that's controlled throughout the day. So also they'll be replacing putting in a new phone system, as that is probably a priority. I've heard to do a little birdie. But that is something that they'll be working on and implementing that as well. Next, I'll bring up Scott Oswald from the Georgia Art Company, and he'll talk about some target dates as far as getting things rolling out and coming back before you.
Thank you, Ahmed. Members of the administration and board, I echo Darren's sentiments. Thank you for welcoming George Hawk to your community and offering us the chance to serve the district. I'm Scott Oswald with George Hawk, and as Ahmed mentioned, the path that we're on, part of our job is to establish some dates and work with the team to hit those dates so that we can get documents out to bid and get those contractors on board and get them lined up for the work schedule this summer. So currently, as Darren indicated, we're working through the schematic design phase. We've just received documents from partners to begin the first round of estimating and verifying against the project budgets. And we'll continue to work with partners and the team through the design development stage. And through the month of December, as they're working on additional detail and fluffing out these drawings, we'll be working on our end as well to put numbers to those, making sure that we ask any questions along the way for both constructability and to make sure that we've got a good solid understanding of what it's going to cost to put this all together. They'll work through construction documents through the course of the month of January. By the middle end of January, we'll have a final set to be able to verify preliminary cost estimates, make sure we're still on the right path. And then prepare those documents to put them out on the street for bids by the beginning of February, with the target that we would get those bids from the trade contractors back by the end of February, 1st of March, in order to be able to review those bids that we've received from those contractors, make sure that we have solid, viable bids, and prepare a recommendation to bring back with Plant Moran to this group and make recommendations for contract award by mid-March. That way we can get our group aligned and set up so that we can start work with the planned construction duration of that June to August timeframe. With the possibility of starting work in the pool area, knowing that that's going to be a little more intensive. We'd like to be able to get in there and get an early start if at all possible. I know Brian's had some communications out to the various groups that utilize that pool area. And there's a possibility of getting started in there in May.
Nice.
So every day counts, especially when we're looking at these compressed summer schedules and knowing that you've got teams and community users that come back in end of August, middle of August. We want to make sure that we have every chance we can get to have the trade contractors successful and get done with that work and get ready for the fall swim season. So, Ahmed, that's really a quick snapshot of our target dates at this point. Partners is working hard to produce documents and get them in our hands so we can keep that ball rolling. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, they were mad at me for putting the dates up there. But those are our target dates. I mean, we have to have something to shoot for. So we may be, plus or minus a little bit on some of those dates, but those are the target dates. Just a little bit of clarification, those places where you see where we have estimates, those are points where we check to make sure that we're in line with the budget. It saves a lot of time on the back end so that we don't wait until, documents are just about done and then find out that we've designed something that's way over budget. Sometimes architects get a little creative. But those estimates are in place to keep us in check as we move toward a guaranteed maximum price, which is what ARC works toward to get so that when we go out, we know exactly where we stand and where we're going to be. We try to get as close as possible within percentage points of where that maximum price is supposed to be. That's one of the advantages of going with CMC, construction manager as a constructor, which is why we recommended that. Thought that'd be best for you in your position. Another thing to note there is that date of the March 13th board meeting, that's the meeting that will come. You'll have opportunity to ask questions, provide any comments or feedback on the bids that have been received and the recommendation that's being presented before you, and we'll be asking that you take action on that particular day. We'll get the information to Mr. April before so that you're able to view it, but at that meeting, we'll be looking to have you take action on that day. So, and as Scott mentioned, during our meetings, during our huddle-ups, we do look for opportunities to, if staff is willing and we're not being too disruptive, to take advantage of any early opportunities to get in. Obviously, we want to minimize interaction between trades or construction work and the operations of what's going on at the school, but there is quite a bit of work that we need to get done. The work that we propose for this coming next summer is approximately $5 million worth of work, and you got 10 weeks to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, see,
He knows already. Yeah.
so it's quite a bit of work to take on in the summer. It's not something unusual for us in construction, in school construction, but still we need to make sure that we're being efficient and moving along. With this pace, we knew that we initially going in would be, thank you.
Where are you going? Where are you going?
In looking at the program as a whole,
Let's go shopping.
we knew that the first summer would be sort of light, being that once if you have votes on bonds in May, it kind of sometimes is difficult to in that window of opportunity to get all the planning, bring on all the team players, do all the upfront stuff, which is probably the most important part of the bond, is the planning and the strategizing and making sure that we are running the program in an efficient manner and making sure that we hit dates. It's difficult to do a whole lot that first summer. So we knew that first summer would be sort of light, but the next couple of summers we plan on amping it up a little bit, so quite a bit. So with that, the next steps are, we will, once we did engage SME as a civil engineer, they have been conducting traffic studies and doing pavement, gathering data for the pavement assessments. They're gonna be continuing to do that work. They've been to, I think they've completed all the, what's called the geotechnical work and the surveying work at each of the sites. They're still in the process of gathering the data for the traffic impact studies. Once we gather all that information, we'll analyze it, present options to the administration, and if need be, we'll take the opportunity to go to each of the schools that may have some significant changes, because I understand there are some challenges at a few schools with traffic flow. Presenting that to the end users and the community members if they'd like to at least see what's planned and what's being recommended. So we're gathering that data and continuing to do that. We'll continue to develop the design, as Darren talked about, moving along in the design phases for next summer's work. We'll continue to move forward toward bidding and awarding and developing the actual detailed construction schedule, which we'll do that once we get further along in the program for next summer's work, and that'll be something that repeats over the next few summers as well. Since I've started here, we've been having what we call team meetings, and as we brought on the team members, they joined in, but we have regular team meetings to discuss the program, validating the budget, talking about the extent of the scope of the work and how much of the work needs to be done. When we did the facility assessment, we kind of just, looked at a few things, put numbers together, and gave you a template, if you will. But now that we have the team members on board, they do more of the popping heads above ceilings and digging deep into the buildings and determining the extent of the scope of the work, making sure we have the allocated funds. The funds are allocated that are appropriate to take care of the work. And then we'll also continue to develop the whole program schedule as well. One of the things during our team meetings that came out that was very much needed was there was an issue with a lack of space. We've come to see that is a challenge that particularly at the high school and at Kinloch that they're dealing with. The bond funds allocated some funds toward infilling some courtyards to try to address the lack of space at those particular facilities. But as we began to discuss it a little more, it seemed more appropriate that specifically at the high school and at Kinloch, additions might be more appropriate. The challenge is that we only have so many bond funds. So you have one or two options. You can either delete some of the work that was intended to do to make sure to release those funds for those particular items, or supplement from another funding source and provide those funds. So there may be some decisions that need to be made as far as which direction you want us to go. We can provide any information that you need to make that decision. If we need to come up with some cost estimates, some program spacing, evaluations if need be, but if we're going to go the route of additions at those particular schools, there's going to be needed some supplemental funds, or in either case, or deleting some work. And we don't want to delete any work since the bond itself, $35 million, was cut back or reduced. So we'll be looking for formal direction from you on that, but we'll provide you with any information that you need to make an informed decision and give us formal direction on that. But that's something that we will continue to discuss in our team meetings, so whatever information, we'll work on getting that to you. We'll continue to have technology. We'll continue to meet with Ms. Walega and her staff to develop that technology, how that's going to be rolled out, what phases are going to be rolled out in each of the summers. They are also a part of the team meetings that we have, so that we make sure that we're consistent with one another. We're not doing something ahead of them, or we're consistent with what we're doing, making sure the construction and technology are moving in parallel with one another. And then we'll also we talked about when we came last of providing or conducting meetings with the citizen group as well as the board members to update you on where we are. We'll sort of formalize that and come up with a plan of how we're gonna move forward with doing that. So with that, that ends our presentation.
Wonderful.
If you have any questions or comments, take them.
Brian, I just have, we probably won't have a swim program for this summer.
Correct.
Okay.
That's the plan as of now.
And
They're
he-
aware of that.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Excellent presentation from all of you. Thank you so much. You've answered questions we've kind of been wondering about and gotten us even more excited about things that are happening. I mean, when it gets to the point where I'm excited about the new HVAC system, that's really scary. It's like, you have done your job, because it's not, as Mr. April says, some of these things aren't the prettiest things. Actually, he uses the word sexiest, but not the prettiest things you can see. But we're shoring up our infrastructure, which is sadly in need of repair, never been touched since the schools were built. And this will make all of us feel good about what's happening in our district, how everything's going to be running smoother, and we're going to have upgrades that will be able to be seen and enjoyed. I think it'd be kind of fun to have the meeting about the front of Crestwood when Mrs. Krasanik isn't here. Can we do it when she's not here? She's been crying about that for 10 years. But, no, it's exciting. I mean, we just feel like we're getting closer and closer, and the community is probably wondering, you know, well, we proved it, you know, the money's gone, what's happening? So this is a good way to keep the community informed as to what's going on. Excellent, excellent presentation. We all appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.